Hi guys. So, talking to a victim of abuse can somewhat be a difficult thing to do or can put you in a difficult situation. Well, that is because it is a delicate matter to talk about. Well, today I'll be talking about ways you can have a conversation, a smooth and fruitful conversation with a victim of abuse. Now, one thing you'd like to avoid when you're talking to them is to judge them. No judgments when you're talking to a victim of abuse. You do not tell them that it's their fault, or oh, you shouldn't have done that way, or you shouldn't have done this. Probably that would have avoided the abuse from happening. You don't do that. No judgments when you're talking to a victim of abuse. Just allow the person to flow and pour out their heart. It doesn't matter if the person is lying, of which at that point you can tell if the person is lying. So no judgments. The second thing you like to do is to encourage the conversation. Keep the person talking. Okay, and you can do that by asking the person, okay, what happened next? Keep nodding your head like, okay, I want you to keep on going. Or you can even use your hand and give this sign that would make the person feel comfortable, like this person believes me, this person really wants to hear me, or this person is listening to me. So keep the conversation going. But one thing you should not do is to push. When you say, okay, so what happened next, and the person doesn't want to speak up, do not push. Just be very patient. You have to be patient when you're talking to a victim of abuse. Okay, now another thing is you have to keep things private. Now, a lot of people on the streets do not know how to zip their mouth, or do not know how to keep secrets or certain informations. You have to learn to be confidential when you're talking to a victim of abuse. You don't go about, after being told about the abuse situation, you don't go about telling your sister, your brother, your best friend, your mother, your sister that, hey, this is what this person is going through. No, you have to learn how to keep their identity a secret, okay, unless or until the victim gives you a go ahead, okay, because let me give a situation. You find that, okay, this victim of abuse needs professional help from a counselor or from a psychologist, and needs therapy sessions, and you've spoken to a professional about it. Now it is a different situation. You're trying to find help for the person. You're not out there running your mouth about the person's abuse situation. So you have to know the difference, okay? The only time you get to talk about the person is when you're seeking help from a professional person, a more professional person, and you do not reveal the person's identity until the victim gives you permission to. Now, another is you do not assume that the abuse is not that bad. A lot of us Africans are guilty of this. We tend to believe that, look, no matter the situation you're going through, someone is going through worst. And that alone, that sentence alone, makes the victim feels that, hey, you're not in much trouble, so just shut up, clean your tears, and just move on. You do not assume that, because one thing about an abuser is an abuser can threaten to kill you today in the morning, and he would do that in the afternoon or in the evening. Okay, and the fact that someone says that, okay, he just slapped me, doesn't make it a lesser abuse. Okay, so let's try to do away with that mentality that, look, because it's just a slap, so it's not that a big deal. And another thing is pressuring them, reassuring them. You have to reassure a victim that, look, it is not your fault. It is not your fault. It is the abuser. That is who he is, or that is who she is. That is talking about the abuser. But you need to tell the victim, reassure them that whatever it is that has happened to them, whatever the emotional trauma or the verbal abuse they went through, or the physical abuse they went through, you have to assure them that it is not their fault. They do not deserve the kind of treatment that they got, and you are not in support of the abuser no matter what. Now, another thing you'd like to do is that, or you'd have to expect, is the fact that you would you should expect rejection from the victim. Expect to be rejected by the victim whenever you approach them, to talk to them, to try to make them open up to you. They are going to, some of them may reject you, and some of them may be in denial of whatever it is that is happening to them. Some people never know that they are in abusive relationships until someone opens their eyes to the fact that, hey, you're in trouble. That is when they realize that they are in abusive relationships or even marriages. Now, another thing again is that you should not mediate immediately. Okay, like let's say, for instance, I open up to you and I tell you that, hey, I'm being abused by my boyfriend. You should not go ahead immediately to mediate. You may just be putting the victim into more trouble when you do that. Try to get your facts straight. Try to understand the story before you go ahead to even mediate. And a lot of victims would even tell you not to, because they know that it would further irritate, or would I say agitate, their abusers to abusing them the more. So they would tell you, nah, don't do that. Wait until you're able to understand their story and the type of abuse, and you get a professional advice concerning what you've heard before you attempt to mediate. Okay, so we don't put them into more trouble. And another is to provide practical support for the victim. Very, very important. The fact that an abuser, a victim rather, opens up to you and tells you their the kind of situation they're in, that is the abusive situation they're in, you should be able to give support to them, practical support to them, like invite them out, volunteer to sponsor a lunch with them, or even when they call you up to tell you that they're in need of certain things, you should be willing and available to actually help them. Be there for them emotionally and even physically if you can. And the last is to look after yourself. Yes, you who is trying to help the victim, look out for yourself. Abusers can be very aggressive, and they can come for whoever is trying to take control away from them. This is how abusers view it, that when someone is trying to intervene, they are trying to take control. Remember, I always say, domestic violence, domestic abuse is all about the control. That is all the abuser is trying to get, control over his victim. And so whenever you're trying to step into their situation, they see that you're trying to take the control away from them. Now, you have to look out for yourself. If not, the abuser is going to come for you. And when you see that a victim is in deep trouble and you've sensed it, that person is in deep trouble, please do not hold back. Try to help that person. You can report the case to police. You can report it to NGOs that handle these kind of cases. Have the human rights offices that you can go to report such cases. Please do not keep your voice down when it comes to domestic abuse. Now, I hope you found these tips useful to save that sister, that colleague, that friend, that neighbor that is suffering in an abuse relationship or marriage. You could just be the person that's going to liberate them from that situation. Elise here. Remember to like and subscribe to my channel, Thoughts with Elise. I'm also on Facebook at Thoughts with Elise. Bye until next time.